Hi guys, it looks like we're on live now. I hope you guys are having an awesome night. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Stephanie. I am the author of Mindful Weight Loss Method, How to Lose Weight and Keep It Off Forever. And this is my BFF and business partner, Jacqueline Mack.
Hello.
And tonight, our webinar, this is the third one that we've done, which is crazy. Time is flying. But tonight, our webinar series is focused on Thanksgiving. And really, I kind of prepared things not only for Thanksgiving, but also just kind of for things that you're going to be going through throughout the holidays. So the remainder of the month, as well as the beginning and end of December. We will have another webinar at the end of December as well, but I figured I should give you as much information as I can before Christmas comes, and so that you have information and tools and tricks and techniques to use for all the holiday parties that you have from in between now. So about is just the fact that it is possible to have fun during the holidays and not gain weight, to eat all of the foods that you love during the holidays and not gain weight. And it is possible to attend all of the holiday parties and be around all of the tempting foods that just happen to be around during the holidays and not gain weight. And we're going to talk about how you do that tonight. So just a little kind of information about weight gain in the holidays. So the research is showing that as you know, every year that goes by, the amount of weight that people are gaining is actually increasing. So it used to be like an average of like 5 pounds, and now it's anywhere between 1 and 10 pounds. So that's pretty significant increase from what it has been in previous years, and it's essentially correlated closely with whether you're overweight or obese, or whether you are of a normal weight. So what I mean by that is people that are of a normal weight or an average weight or a healthy weight, they tend to gain less weight than those individuals who are overweight or obese. And so those would be the people that gain closer to that 10-pound mark, which is not good. I'm sure you guys probably all know that. And the reason why is kind of interesting. There are two different hormones that kind of regulate your hunger and satiety. So what that means, satiety is how satisfied you are by the food you're eating, and your hunger is just basically when you get hungry, when you need to eat. And those two hormones are called leptin and ghrelin. I was saying that wrong for many years. I just realized tonight. I looked it up online, and it's called ghrelin. And so these two hormones are regulated in the body at a normal rate when people are of at a normal rate when you are of a normal weight. So essentially they work properly, they work the way they're supposed to, they help you become hungry when you need food in your system, and they help you, your brain to know when you're satisfied when you've eaten enough food. So basically they work in tandem with each other. One, obviously is helping us to get the food we need, and one is to help us tell our brain, okay, you've gotten the food you need, you can stop eating now. And essentially these two hormones that are very, very important to your body weight and how much fat you keep on your body, they start to malfunction basically and just not operate correctly when you're overweight. And unfortunately, they don't operate in a way that would make you less hungry and more satisfied faster. They do the opposite. They make you much more hungry, so the one hormone ghrelin gets overactive, and the hormone leptin gets less active. So you're not as aware when you're satisfied by food. And one other kind of interesting thing that I had forgotten about is ghrelin. So the one that helps you to not be as hungry. Well, it tells you when you are hungry. That one actually they both have something to do with how much energy you use. So that means energy is also calories. So how many calories you burn. Not only how many calories you burn, but how much fat you store. So that's kind of another edge that they have when it comes to obesity and being overweight is not only when you're overweight and obese are you hungrier more because these hormones aren't working, but then you're also decreasing how much energy and calories you're using, and you're also putting on more fat. So that's kind of a double-edged sword there. Now, when it comes to the holidays, and specifically we're talking about Thanksgiving this time, this webinar, but essentially any time of year that has social gatherings. That's one of the major downfalls when it comes to people overeating and gaining weight over the holidays, is this aspect of the social gathering. And I think more so than Christmas or Hanukkah or any of the holidays in December, Thanksgiving is a time when the social gathering aspect is kind of in full effect. And not only that, all the parties in between are obviously social gatherings. And when we eat in a group, like we do specifically on Thanksgiving, we eat a lot more. Not just a little more, but much more, like all capital letters, much more. And there's a couple different reasons why we do this. So anytime we eat with friends and family, we lose track of how much we're eating. There's a lot of different reasons why. One would be if we get lost in conversation. There's a bunch of different reasons. But when we're with a group of people, specifically like friends and family, we eat more and forget how much we've eaten. One of the reasons why is because we eat for a longer period of time. So generally speaking, you'll be at a table, there'll be, or even if you're not at the table. So I know, like, when my family has Thanksgiving dinner, we have appetizers out, there's like little finger foods out before dinner comes, and everybody's just walking around, and you kind of munch on this, munch on that. You have crackers and cheese, let's say. You have no idea how much of that stuff you've eaten because you're talking, chit-chatting, kind of walking around just picking, whatever's there, and usually you're waiting a long time for the food to get ready, so you're hungry at that point. And that's one of the reasons why we eat more, is because we eat for a longer period of time. So you'll start before the meal and then go during the meal, and after the meal, obviously there's dinner. So just the period of time is longer. We also subconsciously allow people to set the pace of our food, of how fast we eat our food. And that's something that's kind of interesting. So if you're sitting next to a person who eats their food really, really fast, you will be more likely to eat your food really, really fast. And then we also essentially have like a pace setter for not only how fast we're eating our food, but also how much we're serving our food and how much of our food we're eating. So if you're sitting next to somebody who eats really fast and eats a large portion of food, you will not only eat faster, you will also eat more. And let's say even if there's like a basket of bread on the table and they reach for an extra roll, there's a better chance that you will also reach for an extra roll simply because you're sitting by that person. So it's kind of like a subconscious pace setter. Oh, and then I have this one study here that was just really interesting. So there was a study done, and they gave one person in a group. So the whole group didn't know this was happening. They thought they were just hanging out for the night. But the scientists actually gave a pace setter an amount of cookies to eat. So they told this person, there was like 3 different groups. So one time the pace setter was told to eat 5 cookies. One time they were told to eat 6 cookies. One time they were told to eat 10 cookies. And each time, the average of cookies eaten by the entire group went up. So every time the pace setter went up, so did everybody else, unbeknownst to them. So they had no clue that they were actually eating more simply because somebody around them was eating more. So I thought that was really interesting and really telling on how just subconsciously people can really affect how much and what you're eating, and also how fast. This was really crazy to me. So there's also a lot of stats based on this. So there's a ton of research in this area, and one of the scientists was able to actually correlate how much more you eat when you're in a group of people, so in a social gathering situation, than you do when you're by yourself. And he could even break it down into exact percentages depending on how many people were in the group. So when you eat with one extra person, you are more likely to eat, or the average person will eat 35% more food than they would had they have been eating alone. That's a lot, and that's just one extra person. So now if you quadruple that, and there's 4 people eating together, so now you're eating, I'm sorry, there would be 5 of you. So let's say you have a table of 5 at a restaurant. So that's 4 other people besides yourself. When you're in a social situation like that, you will be more likely to eat 75% more food. That's a huge amount of food. So 75% more food when you're at a table of 5. Now, this next one is red, blinking, flashing lights, flags waving, Thanksgiving. This one is you're eating with 7 people or more. Generally speaking, that is most people's Thanksgivings, and I know it's definitely mine. Anytime there's 7 or more, you are more likely to eat 96% more than you would if you were eating by yourself. So that is double. So that's just crazy. And that is exactly why people gain weight over the holidays. It's because we're in so many social gathering situations, and then on top of that, we are, surrounded by food that's high calorie and high fat. But the cool thing is that now that you know these things, they happen subconsciously because you don't know about them. But once you realize it, it's no longer subconscious anymore. It's in your conscious, and that means that you'll be more likely to notice it before it happens, or at least when it's happening. And especially if you put that intention in before you actually go to your family gatherings, if you set the intention of, I know these things are true, I heard Stephanie talking about this on that webinar, I'm going to actually try to put these into play this Thanksgiving dinner and see if I see a difference in my need to unbutton my pants after I'm done with Thanksgiving dinner, or my need for a nap like a lot of people do after they finish Thanksgiving dinner. So we talked about how people gain weight, so it's anywhere between 1 to 10 pounds, and the vast majority of the time, if you're overweight to begin with, you will most likely be in that upper level, so that 5 to 10 pounds. And one of the reasons why we just said was social gatherings, and now you guys know. Now the next reason why we're going to talk about is stress. And stress is something that I think I've talked about in every single webinar, and that's because stress is so tightly correlated to overeating, being overweight, being obese, and things like binge eating and things like that. So there's just a negative correlation between high stress levels and eating healthfully. They don't go hand in hand. So anytime you're stressed, it's just going to increase the likelihood that you're going to gain weight, which is not what we want. Now, unfortunately, the holidays tend to increase people's stress levels. And I'm here in America. I know there's probably people watching, there possibly is people watching in other countries, but at least in America, high stress is something that is just like rampantly a problem across the whole, 50 states. That we have a problem with high stress levels. So when you add the holidays into the mix, which comes with, all kinds of stuff. I mean, people have negative connotations with the holidays. A lot of times there's stressful family situations. It's hard to keep everybody happy. You have to think about like, oh my gosh, what am I going to bring, or is everybody going to be happy? Like, do they like the food? What gifts am I going to get? There's like so many different aspects, and then there's like the commitment issues. So it's like I've got parties, invitations like crazy. Which ones do I say yes to? Which ones do I say no to? Are they going to be upset with me? Staying up late because of parties and just all kinds of stuff all adds to stress levels. So. And then there's the whole economic thing too. So stress, like the holidays with especially the December holidays, generally speaking, have to do with a lot of gift buying. And if your economic situation isn't that great, then that's going to really increase your stress levels. So the other crazy thing about this, there was those 2 hormones that I talked about, ghrelin and leptin, and chronic stress actually negatively impacts these hormones as well, which is just another kind of bummer to hear. I don't think I realized how much stress actually causes the dysregulation, which just means that they're out of whack, out of balance, not doing what they're supposed to do, and actually doing the opposite of what they're supposed to do when you get extra stressed out. Then there's so that's one negative, right? There's ghrelin and leptin, which you just learned about earlier in the webinar, which control hunger and satiety. Those two are out of whack. They also control how many calories you're burning and how much fat you're putting on. But both aspects are very negative when it comes to weight gain and weight loss. The next thing is the secretion of the hormone. Oh my gosh, I just lost it in my head. Jackie, what's it called? The stress hormone.
Cortisol.
Oh my gosh, I hate when that happens. So if I have too much cortisol in my brain that I'm forgetting stuff, it causes you to forget things as well. So that's why if you ever get in a fight with someone and you're like you finish the fight or argument or whatever, and you get off the phone or you leave, turn around to leave, you think, why didn't I say this? Why didn't I say that? I forgot about this. And it's because you have too much cortisol in your brain. So anyways, cortisol, when it comes to high stress levels, it actually causes you to gain or store belly fat. So it causes you to store fat in your belly. Now, couple that with your, ghrelin and leptin levels being out of whack and how they actually, I think it's leptin actually that causes you to hang on to fat. Couple that with cortisol, which gives you the higher propensity to store fat in your belly, and that's just a nightmare situation right there. At least I think so. The next thing is, you have a secondary kind of thing where we just have a response to food. I'm sorry, we have a response to stress that when we get really stressed out, we just want to eat food. And it's not broccoli and carrots, the food we want to eat. We want to eat comfort foods. And I think we talked about cravings last webinar, and we talked about kind of like heart cravings and head cravings. And head cravings are going to be your stress cravings. And basically, you're looking for comfort, you're looking, and even emotion. So if you're stressed out because you don't get along with your family members, blah, blah, blah. Like, yeah, that's stress, but that's also an emotional, pain too. So that's a heart craving. So basically, you're eating physiological reasons, and stress is a huge determinant of whether you eat emotionally or not. And all of these things pop up during the holidays. So now we talked about like all of these things that happen, all of these negative things, and now comes the time when we can actually talk about what we can do about it. This is the part that I like. So while everything that I said is correct and true and valid and scientifically proven, the positive thing about it is that it doesn't always have to happen, and you do have control over whether or not you gain weight this holiday season. And this is why. You have choices, and you can choose to do things differently. Let me give you a couple of examples. So before you go to Thanksgiving dinner or a holiday party, since I won't be seeing you guys again until December, I know there's going to be a lot of holiday parties in between now and then, between work and school and friends and family. So before you go to any of those holiday parties, and specifically next week, which is so crazy, I can't believe it's next week already, but next week when it's Thanksgiving, eat before you go. I know so many people who like starve themselves all day long thinking that they're going to save up their calories for Thanksgiving dinner or for whatever their cheat meal is going to be, or because they're going to be so bad later they feel like they can't eat during the day, and it's the exact opposite. You want to eat before you go. Eat something healthy. And the reason why is because if you do not eat, you're going to be starving by the time you get there, and you're going to eat everything in sight. You're going to be on the seafood diet. You're going to see food, and you're going to eat it. You're going to eat it even if it's a food you don't really like, because that's what we do when we get into that starving mode where we're overly hungry. So when you get into that overly hungry place, that's where binge eating lives. So you want to definitely make sure that you eat something healthy. Eat something that you would normally eat for breakfast. You know, maybe depending on how late you guys have dinner, or how early I should say. You know, make sure you have lunch. But you know, and even you could just bring a snack with you too if you want, because I know some families, you know, you have to get there early and then things aren't ready and you're like starving by dinner. Bring a snack. Bring a little, you know, a Kind bar or a Quest bar or something in your purse. A lot of people, and you know, I think we talked about this a million times on these webinars, like when you work in offices or, you know, in hospitals or in any number of places, people love to bring in food. People love to gift food. And one thing that you can do, instead of eating that food or keeping it around, you know, so that it's more tempting for you to eat it, is to go donate it. So there's so many places that are feeding the less fortunate, feeding the homeless, that they would love to have that food to give to these poor people that are, you know, cold and living on the street, or, you know, family, wherever it is that they do, that they give food to. Bring your food and donate it to, you know, churches and all kinds of places. If you just, you know, Google it, you'll find places in your town that you can bring them to, and these people will be happy to take that stuff from you. And then the people who receive it will be really happy that you donated it. So make food less accessible. Anytime you're sitting or standing near food, you're going to be more likely to eat it. So when it's Thanksgiving Day, I know at my family's house, we usually have, like, you know, little hors d'oeuvres or little snacky type of food for people to kind of eat before dinner comes out and everybody's talking. We mentioned this before. So if you can just move yourself away from the, you know, I'm picturing like a bar seating area or like the countertop where, you know, the appetizers live, that you'll be less likely to eat them. So if you can just kind of like have your conversation sitting on the couch or at a table, just away from that standing and just eating and, you know, having no clue how much you're putting in your mouth, you'll be much less likely to overeat later. Decide how much you want to eat of something before you serve yourself. So if you tell yourself, okay, I'm going to have X amount before you go and serve yourself, you'll be more likely to make a good choice and serve yourself a small amount than you will if you just go up without any kind of thought in your mind of, I'm going to try to eat a smaller portion of this, or, you know, I'd really like that, so I'm going to have a larger portion of this and a smaller portion of that. Now, on top of that, the other thing that you can do is anytime it's up to you, and I know sometimes it's not at family, you know, gatherings like the holidays, but anytime you have an option to pick the size of plate or bowl that you're eating out of, pick the smallest one you can use. So a salad plate is a great example. And you know, when you're eating out of bowls, you don't want a huge bowl to fill up to the brim. Use a small one. The smaller that your plate and bowl is, the less you'll eat. And you'll eat less without even knowing that you ate less, which is also part of the beauty of eating out of smaller plates and bowls. That's something that I do every single day. I think I own 2 big plates, and it's mainly for like storing, I don't know, I use it for like storing stuff in the refrigerator. I can't even say I hardly ever. I never eat off the big plate. I actually got rid of all of mine recently. So choose the smallest plate. Next, this is kind of interesting. If in your family you know who the slowest eater is, sit by that person. So, or if you know who the fastest eater is, do not sit by that person. So if you don't know who the slowest eater is, but you do know who the fastest eater is, then you know not to sit by those people. Because that whole pace setting that we talked about earlier, if you simply just by sitting next to somebody who eats fast, you will eat faster. It's been proven time and time again that fast eaters overeat accidentally because their brain and stomach don't have time to communicate to each other that they're full. So by the time the signal gets to your brain, you're already stuffed. The next thing you can do is, oh yeah, and also, so not only stay away from the fastest eater, but you also want to stay away from the biggest eater. So if, like, in a perfect world, you would have a small eater and a slow eater in one person, and then you could just sit next to that person and you'd be perfect. But if you
Or
would,
you could put the slow eater and the small eater on each side of you.
yeah, exactly. That's what I was just gonna say, is that you can be sandwiched between these two eaters, and then you'll be great too. So that'll be kind of funny. I really want you to sit here, and I really want you to sit here. You don't have to tell them why. Um, so then the next thing is try to be the last person to start eating. And this is kind of fun because these can kind of be games that only you know you're doing, right? Nobody's going to notice because nobody pays attention to anybody else's plate really than their own. So if you can just be the last person to start eating, then you'll be closer to the, because generally, like Thanksgiving dinner, for example, is just a much longer event than your average family dinner. I mean, your average dinner that you would have any night, like they're super long, at least double. So if you were the last person to eat, you will be less likely to overeat because it's just proven the longer you sit at a table that has food on it, the more you will eat. Okay, so put your fork or spoon down anytime you're having a conversation. So a lot of times these family gatherings and social gatherings, it's all about, talking to your loved ones and catching up. Usually you see people that you haven't seen in forever, and you have a lot to talk about. So instead of talking and eating, just put your fork down when you're having a conversation. And that will also help you to keep track of how much you're eating, because it's when we're talking and it's when we're like engaged in other things besides what we're eating. So basically we're not mindful that we begin to overeat. Plan your exercise ahead of time. So a lot of times during the holidays, exercise gets put on the back burner for people. It's actually the first thing among many, but I would say exercise is the first to go once people's schedules start to get really, really hectic with the crazy holiday season. So try to plan ahead for your exercise. Try to figure out how you're going to fit it in. There's a little study here that researchers found that when women worked out in the morning, they were more likely to make healthy choices throughout the day, and they were also more likely to be more active throughout the day. So that's two great things. So the best thing you could do is work out on Thanksgiving morning, and then eat something healthy, healthy lunch, healthy breakfast, healthy lunch, and then go to Thanksgiving dinner. That would be like the perfect Thanksgiving day. And I also want to just point out that I'm not saying work out for an hour. I mean, even if it's just 15 minutes, just to get active, to do something, you'll even that alone will help you to make healthier choices throughout the day and also be more active. Reduce your stress level. So kind of practice these mindfulness techniques that we talk about like crazy. Jackie and I talk about till we're blue in the face, and it's what I based my entire book on is mindfulness techniques. So stress reduction and mindfulness go hand in hand, because if you're not in the past, worrying about something that may have already happened, and if you're not in the future thinking about the stuff you have to do, the parties you have to go to, the presents you have to buy, the food you have to cook, all of that good stuff, if you're in the present moment, you will be less stressed. It's just a fact. Another thing that you can do, so practicing mindfulness, number one, being in the present moment. The next thing you can do is practice deep breathing. We've talked about this a million times as well, but deep breathing is scientifically proven to reduce your stress levels and to get your hormone levels back at homeostasis, which is just the normal resting level. When you get super stressed, they go way high, and deep breathing helps them to come back down to resting levels. So that's another thing you can do. And that's just, two of many stress reduction techniques that you can use. Loneliness is actually something that's common during the holidays. So if that's something that you suffer from, I know a lot of people, the holidays are just a tough time for people, and that can lead to depression, anxiety, all kinds of things. Mindfulness and deep breathing will also help with those, but a huge help with those is exercise. Exercise releases endorphins. It does all kinds of stuff. If you can exercise with a friend, that's even better because that helps, that's kind of killing two birds with one stone. Another thing that I'll mention is that I think when people get around the holiday time and they're out, at these social gatherings and stuff, and like especially if you're one that feels kind of lonely or depressed during the holidays, alcohol is something that a lot of people tend to drink more of than they normally would because there's all these parties and stuff. And also, if you feel anxious, that's one of the ways that a lot of people will try to remedy remedy that situation and feel a little better when they're out and about with people. Obviously, alcoholic beverages can cause weight gain because they're high in calories, especially like the fruity ones and all those mixes and all that kind of stuff. But the other thing it does is that it lowers your inhibition, and so you're more likely to eat foods that you wouldn't normally eat. Like you would go home at 3 o'clock in the morning from a party and eat a whole pizza or something. But the other crazy thing that I did not know until tonight was that alcohol also causes elevated ghrelin, which is that hormone that I said causes hunger. So drinking alcohol, and it also affects your lipolysis is it lipolysis? Lipoesis. I think that's how you say it. Basically, it's fat burning, like fat utilization for energy. Basically, it reduces that. So alcohol reduces your ability to lose or burn fat as fuel. And then it also increases your ghrelin levels, which is the hormone that causes you to be hungry. Even if you're not hungry, if that thing gets released, it's telling your brain and your mouth and your salivary glands that you're hungry, you need to eat food. So both of those things get out of whack when you drink alcohol. And then on top of that, if it's some kind of crazy mixed drink with all kinds of juices and mixers, then you're even drinking. It's so easy to drink a ton of calories with that. So that's just something I wanted to point out there. So whenever you bring food to these holiday parties, and whenever you bring food to Thanksgiving dinner or something, try to bring something healthy. Nobody ever brings anything healthy. So usually when somebody brings like a vegetable or a fruit tray or something like that, people like it. They're glad it's not another cookie or chocolate or whatever it is. They're glad to have a healthy option to kind of break up the monotony of all the sweet stuff and kind of overly savory stuff. Excuse me. When you, and this is the final thing I'll say, is when you go to Thanksgiving dinner, make sure that when you serve yourself, you get all of the foods that are your favorite foods that you're not going to be able to go without first. So I know a lot of people go up for seconds and things like that, but if there's foods that you're kind of about, and then there's other foods that you're like, oh my gosh, this sweet potato pie, my aunt or whoever it is only makes it for Thanksgiving, and I love this stuff. I only get it once a year. I definitely want to have that. But then there's like, let's say, I don't know, I just use cheese and crackers again because that's just the only appetizer that's coming to my head tonight. But let's say there's cheese and crackers beforehand. Well, if you had to pick between the two and you love this one, don't eat this one and then just eat this one, because if you eat this that you're just kind of like about, but you haven't eaten the one that you're just like you have to have, well then you're going to eat both. But if you eat the food that you love first, there's chances are you're going to be satisfied and you're not going to go for those foods that you're kind of just like about. So that will really help with you not overeating and having too many fat and calories in your body, which will lead to weight gain. So I hope that helped you guys a lot. Jackie, can you let me know if we have any questions or anything?
Yes, I only see a recommendation.
Okay.
Which I agree with. Actually, it's funny. I was just thinking this. outside of all your great recommendations of planning ahead and the statistical stuff, this one is about just being active while you're with family. I know that's one thing that we used to do when we were even younger, is all the kids would go outside and play football right after dinner. Like, not immediately, but we'd wait maybe 15, 20 minutes, help clean up or whatever, and we'd go play football and take a hike. And that was good because we all ate too much and we all wanted to just go sleep. But instead, we just got out and got active.
Yeah, that's a great recommendation. And you know what's funny is that we actually do that as a family every single Thanksgiving. After everybody eats, I even bring my sneakers with me. Like if I wear a cute pair of shoes, I bring them in the car with me because every single Thanksgiving we walk around the block. And you know, we don't run and we don't walk for an hour or anything, but we do get active. And yeah, that's a great recommendation. That's one that's not in my recommendations, but I highly recommend getting active with your family. And if you could, you know, gosh, if you could do that before dinner and after dinner, that'd be so awesome. And it's a great way to connect too.
Yeah, and another thing I would throw out there, just because now I'm at the age where I have a lot of nieces and nephews and my cousins have babies, is play with the kids. Like, just because you're the adult doesn't mean you can go into the living room if there's snow outside and you're not outside being active, to go get down on the floor and play with the kids and, you know, or turn on some music and get a dance party started. I have other friends that I've been to their parties with families, and they turn on music, especially the Latino demographic group. They get their groove on, and it's fun, and everybody gets involved, and you're burning off calories, and it's so fun. So those are two things personally that I think are also just as fun as going out and taking a walk and getting some fresh air.
Yeah, and you know what? One thing that I meant to write in my notes here, and I did not, but this is like totally bringing it back to me, is when you are, so one of the worst things that you can do, and unfortunately it's exactly what your body wants you to do, one of the worst things that you can do when you've overeaten is sit on your butt, lay down, and just veg out. That's exactly what you want to do, but if you can just stand up, even if you just stand up, like you double your metabolism simply by standing up as opposed to laying down. So even if you can just stand up, if you don't want to go outside, if it's too cold, if it's, you know, crazy weather, just don't go and eat all of those calories and then just lay down. It's so bad for your blood sugar. And one of the only ways that you can get your blood sugar back down to normal and also burn the food that's in your belly is to be active at that point. That's pretty much the only way. If you don't, so if you don't burn the calories that are in that you've consumed, they will get stored as fat. That's the only thing that can happen to them. They can't magically disappear. They're not going to get turned into muscle, unfortunately. I would think we would all be so happy if they did. But if you can just at least stand up or take a short walk or something, then you're gonna be 10 times better for it.
We do have another question.
Cool.
This question says, how bad is fried turkey for you? It's delicious, and I would love to make one this year.
Well, you know what? I don't have the actual stats on fried turkey, but because turkey is so big, I have seen it before though, and I kind of did my own little like assessment of it based on because I took a serving, I had never had it before, and the inside part doesn't really touch the oil, so it doesn't really get fried. It just gets cooked, so it's just heated from the outside in. The skin and stuff, that's a different story. I mean, it's definitely, anytime you fry something, sorry, my throat is scratchy tonight. Anytime you fry something, it's higher in fat, higher in calories, all of those things. The one thing that I did not like about it, and this is kind of personal because this is about weight loss, it's not about, you know, substances that are in things, but essentially a lot of times when people fry turkeys, they inject them with like seasoning and stuff, and that stuff tends to have a ton of additives and chemicals and crap like that, and I that's one thing I don't like about it. I'd rather just have your regular old like oven turkey. I really didn't think it tasted that different either, but that might have just
Because
been.
you didn't eat the yummy skin. That was
No, I did not.
because we fry turkey and we do it normal, and yeah, it is what it is. And my suggestion with that is, like you said too, Stephanie, it's cooked on the inside. It's not getting fried necessarily, you know, all the way through. Like fried chicken is greasy all the way through. But in moderation too. Again, if you're like, I get fried turkey once a year, I'm gonna make sure I have that on my plate first, and I'm gonna skip the boring cheese and crackers that I get anytime I want. You know.
I have
So
to admit, fried turkey grosses me out, so I might have like a negative connotation with it. So, but you are right. If you like it and you want to eat it and it tastes good to you and you only get it once a year, heck yeah, eat it. But skip the cheese and crackers. The poor cheese and crackers are getting picked on tonight, but you know, any food that is like a munchy food that you just could like take it or leave it, it's just not worth it. Have the fried turkey instead if that's what you want.
mhm.
Anything else?
um, looking at the questions real quick. No other questions at this time. Of course, feel free to email us. And you all still have plenty of time to read our ebook. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in the chat box as well. Give me 1 second here. And that way, if you really want to be prepared and empowered over the next 30 days before Santa comes, we have plenty of tips, tricks, techniques, mindful activation cards that you can put in your pocket when you're feeling weak. And you can utilize the planner to get ahead of yourself with all of this. Sorry, I had it copied and pasted and I lost it. Now I got it. Right one. Okay. There's the direct link for Mindful Weight Loss Method. And again, it's not just the book, it's a whole product suite. So go check it out and see what's there before the price changes in 2015. Oh,
Yes.
we do have another question. Sorry.
Woo-hoo.
They're still coming in. That's why I wanted to take a little break there. Which organ or organs suffer the most from overeating and drinking? Is there any cleanse suggestions? That's a double-loaded question.
Double loaded. Double loaded. So which organs, if you are of a healthy weight, really none of your organs are gonna suffer. What will suffer? Well, I can't say that. So what will suffer as far as organs go? If you're of a healthy weight, like this could just go for anybody. Your esophagus, your stomach, your digestive system. So your digestive tract in general, those are all part of your digestive tract. So anytime you overeat, the muscle that kind of controls between your stomach and your esophagus, if the food is pushing up on your esophagus, that's what leads to acid reflux, because it's just refluxing up through that muscle that's usually supposed to be like this. So the food is pushing everything up like that. And anytime that happens, that's eroding the inside of your esophagus, and unfortunately, that's the kind of stuff that can lead to esophageal cancer. It can lead to, even if it's just discomfort and irritation, it's just not good for the esophagus, the lining of the esophagus to get that. And your stomach just gets stretched out. It's not really going to hurt it, but it will cause you to be able to eat more, you know, throughout the whole holiday. So once you stretch it out once, it just becomes easier and easier to eat more. When it comes to a cleanse, like, I don't really, there's no one cleanse that I would recommend. Like one that I don't recommend that a lot of people do is that like lemon juice, cayenne pepper thing. Like that's one that I don't recommend. But there's, like in my opinion, the best kind of cleanse you can do is to take out all chemicals, processed foods, junk, excess sugars, just processed garbage, anything that comes in a box, container, package. If you can just cut all of that out for, you know, a period of time, it would be great if we could all cut it out forever, but it's just kind of, it's just a little bit too hard to do that for most people. But, you know, you could also juice and stuff like that, but honestly, it's the chemicals and the you know, even meats that are not free range and organic and things like that, they're all full of hormones. And this is a whole nother topic, but basically, if you could just cut all of that stuff out of your diet for a while, but if you can't do all of that, right, if it's just something that you're unable to do, the bare minimum that you can do is to cut out the excess sugars and the added sugars from your diet. I did a YouTube video on added sugars that if you go to our YouTube channel, which is called Method Weight Loss, I can't remember, I think it's like the sneaky sugar that's in the food you eat or something like that. It's I think it's about 6 minutes long, but I go through all of these different beverages and foods, and the amount of sugar that's in these things is like insane. I show it both in actual amounts of sugar and then also the actual written grams of sugar. Hidden sugars are just in all kinds of foods, but specifically in prepackaged, processed, boxed foods. Those all, no matter whether it's a sweet food or not, has hidden sugar in it. And if you can't do anything that I said before about like chemicals and free range and all of that good stuff, minimally just reduce your sugar amount, and you'll be good.
Yes, I'll put that link down here as well. It's the shocking truth about the amount of added sugar in your foods that you eat. Cool. And we do have another question.
Awesome.
The other question is, do you use butter in your Thanksgiving food or something else?
Okay. That is an awesome question. I'm glad that got asked. I use and believe everyone should use regular butter. Regular butter. Like, I wish that all my good friends here in Tampa where I live were watching, because I think a lot of them still use like fake butter, thinking that it's healthier. It's so not. That stuff is so bad for you. It's got so many gross, nasty food chemicals and trans fats and all kinds of crap. To be honest, like using just a little bit of, I'm not talking about like eating butter, but using butter on your food rather than this, fake stuff, you're gonna get more bang for your buck from a flavor perspective. And not only that, it's much healthier for you than any of the added crap fakes. If it's supposed to be butter and it's not butter, well then that means it's fake and it was made in a lab. And you really don't want to eat anything that a scientist made when there's a natural alternative. So real butter all the way.
Yeah, and one of our cats said Kerrygold. Yes. We like that butter.
We're big proponents of Kerrygold. Kerrygold is grass-fed butter, basically. It's a little bit more expensive, but it's so worth it. I wrote a blog on it. So I think I can't remember what the blog was that I wrote, but I think it was about bulletproof coffee.
Yeah, you compared the two butters.
Oh, that's right. I did a blog on butter. It wasn't even about coffee. It was about the difference between Kerrygold, which is a grass-fed butter, and Publix Greenwise, which is established with that's here in Florida. I believe it's like up in Georgia too. But they have their own organic section, and so I had organic, healthy, great butter from the organic section, and then I compared it to Kerrygold, and Kerrygold blew it out of the water. From a taste perspective, it was so much better.
Yes, and I second that. And I also put, by the way, Stephanie's blog, I'll make a quick plug here, is factfinderstuff.com. We're doing a lot of revamping with our website material right now and making everything seamless and much user-friendly. We invested into a program that was supposed to help optimize, and it just doesn't make it look good nor make it easy to navigate on. So we're revamping that all right before the new year as well. So be patient with us, but everything will stay live until we do the switchover. But it is factfinderstuff.com, and I just put it in the chat box. And then here's another question. Oh, actually, here's a suggestion on Kerrygold. One of our guests said you can get a good amount of Kerrygold at Costco for $6.99. So it must be a big block because Kerrygold comes in a normal block. So that's good to know. Thank you so much for suggesting that.
Yeah, I've never seen a block of Kerrygold from Costco, but that stuff is I mean, and it lasts for a really long time. I actually just randomly, I don't know how I find these things. They call me Fact Finder stuff for a reason. I guess that's why. I just come across random things, but basically butter takes on the flavors of whatever's in your refrigerator. So it's important if you are like cutting it up or you know not using it all or putting some out on your counter and keeping some in your refrigerator that you keep it in a really nice airtight container, and it stays fresh for a while that way. So if you but it's not like forever though. I think it only stays fresh for like a month or 2 months. I can't remember exactly what it was.
Yeah, I keep mine in a butter bell on the counter so that way it's always easily accessible and spreadable.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe you can do that with butter, definitely with butter with salt in it. I'm not sure if you can do that with butter without salt. That would be something we could find out for you.
This consistency the same.
Well, I mean, as far as refrigeration, I think I heard something about salt being...
No, you can keep some out. It's just you can't keep it out forever. Like, yeah.
Ours doesn't last longer than a week.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, most people eat it within that time, so that's why it's fine. Like, I actually left some out because I didn't use butter for a really long time. I am also, like, I do use butter for, like, cooking eggs and things like that, but if I cook vegetables and stuff, I use coconut oil, those are the only two oils that I cook in, butter or coconut oil. I don't cook in any other oils because any other oil doesn't have a high enough smoke point, so they have lower smoke points. So let's say olive oil, for example, has a lower smoke point than coconut oil or butter. So that means that it goes rancid or goes bad, turns carcinogenic basically after a certain temperature. So it's best to use like an olive oil in like salad dressings and stuff like that. Or if you have something that you're just kind of warming up, like you just want to like toss, that's okay. But if you have anything that you need to heat up, so like if you're cooking meat or something, it's really not that good to cook in olive oil.
2 more questions, and then we'll probably have to round this up here. This one question says, they just tried bulletproof coffee for the first time today. Part espresso with a little Kerrygold, a little coconut oil. How good or bad is drinking a cup of this daily?
It's not bad for you at all. It wouldn't be good if you are eating the average American diet, because essentially bulletproof coffee was created because it's essentially part of a ketogenic diet, which is a high fat, low carb, moderate to regular protein, like moderate to high protein rather. So if you're eating a lot of carbohydrates and a lot of sugars and you're drinking, this high fat content, well, that's when the trouble arises. So high sugar, high chemical level, all of those, like anything that can cause inflammation in your body. So that's just anything that's a processed food. High sugar, high fried stuff, high, I don't know, just prepackaged stuff. None of that's good. So essentially, it's not that it's bad for you, it's just not good for you unless you're following a low carb, low sugar diet.
I prefer the taste of it too. I think it's a great coffee, but just like Stephanie said, it's definitely when you're adding all the extra stuff, like think about the average American diet, or we call it SAD diet, the standard American diet. People are drinking cups upon cups of coffee a day, like getting the ventis and whatnot. So if you're doing it yourself and you're doing it in moderation, you're fine. You're doing it by the protocol. That's normal. Here's the other question from Jan. Are there any other specific dishes that you make for Thanksgiving that would be healthier than others?
I'm going to just have a really big confession here. I don't cook for Thanksgiving. I never have.
My family makes good food.
I don't know if I ever will. Um, but I do know one thing that's really good is if you make mashed potatoes using, of course, a little bit of Kerrygold, but also rather than tons of butter and tons of milk, using chicken stock. It's really good. You could even use, if you're a vegetarian, you could use vegetable stock. Um, one other thing is that the sweet potato pie stuff, like it's so good. Don't get me wrong, I eat it. But there is a much healthier way that you can do that with just using much less sugar, much less butter, less marshmallows. I think is on what's on top, and just kind of baking that and using more higher on the cinnamon, less on the sugar, and no marshmallow topping. But I have to admit it, I don't cook.
Yeah, honestly, I would recommend, because my family's from the South, so there is a no cutting corners when it comes to healthy. And, a lot of my family is also overweight, and they're okay with it. So, but what I would recommend is there's so many good recipes out there. Like, I think if you just Googled, like, an alternative to X, Y, and Z, you can find it. For example, is a registered dietitian, and she just did a 3-minute episode on her daily show, Emotional Mojo, and one was scalloped potatoes. And basically what they did with the scalloped potatoes is they added in butternut squash. So you can like substitute and have fun and get creative, because you never know. Your next dish that you swapped out a couple ingredients for could be the next hit, and people might be like, hey, can you bring that again next year, or can we get together soon, or can I have that recipe? So I have a lovely neighbor who does that all the time with her family, and she shares generously with her new experiments and ideas. And healthy food does taste good. Like, I think people are still wrapped up with, if it's not from a box, or
is healthy food tastes better.
It does. It tastes amazing. If anything, when you just actually play around and try stuff and get outside of the box, literally, and eat real food and mix things together, it's amazing what comes out of it. So I hope that helps a little bit. But if you have specifics that you would like a healthier version for, email us, go to our webpage, put a comment, and we can definitely get you some solutions for sure.
You guys, our time is up. Thank you guys so much for being here and participating and keeping us company. We always have so much fun on these webinars. We have one more coming up. I don't know when it's going to be.
Well, it will either be the 16th or the 23rd. Those are the 2 Tuesdays.
So it'll be the 16th.
Perfect.
So December 16th, which is a Tuesday, we had to switch things over to Wednesday. I wonder if Wednesday's a better night for people, or Tuesday's a better night. Well,
yeah, we have a better turnout on Tuesdays, just FYI.
So anyways, so Tuesday on the 16th at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time will be our next webinar, and that webinar I'm going to try to talk to you, to discuss things about, or not try to, I don't know why I would try and not do. So we're going to discuss things about New Year's resolutions and probably stress relief. I haven't thought too far into it, but definitely New Year's resolutions will be on the docket for next month webinar. So again, we thank you so much for being here. We love you guys so much. Thanks for your support. And until we meet again, I want to wish you so much love.
And we're so thankful for you. We're not going to see you before Thanksgiving. Thank you for your love and support. You got this. Can't wait to hear and see you all in about a month.
Yeah, and let us know how you do with all these new things you learned tonight. All right, we will see you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.